Hi guys, welcome back to HAG Studios. Today is part 2 of the rejuvenation of my orchid beds. There are 3 orchid beds to the front of my lawn which have mainly sun vanders, and we're going to be clearing those beds, removing all the weeds, repotting, cutting back some of the vanders which are very tall, and then we'll repot and replant. And I'm also going to add some of the dendrobiums from the previous bed. So stay with us as we renew my orchid beds. Like I said, there are 3 orchid beds at the front of my lawn and they're just not looking good. These beds are not identical in shape. I'm hoping for more rain and less heat for the rest of the year, and I kind of think you might be feeling the same way. There are several kikis which we'll be removing from the mother plants, plus they're very tall orchids with lots of roots which we'll be cutting. We're going to bring back some life to these beds, and Avia is going to help. There are a few orchids, faithful orchids in bloom, but it's not in bloom as it usually is when there are no more normal weather conditions. So this is the bed in the middle, and the idea is that we will take some of the extra plants that we have and put them on their own so we have a full bed. Here's another of the 3 beds which is badly in need of attention. This is the 3rd bed, and when we did the video on the gardens of College Green, I was so impressed with that garden at the beginning of the video where the orchids were just bursting with excitement, and I thought that's what I'd love to have. I have these beds, but I want them to be full and overflowing with blooms when it's blooming time. So I have a lot of orchids that are like, for example, this one which can be taken off. This one is tall, it has a lot of roots, so we can cut some from that. Here's a kiki hanging on here, and there's just so much I can do to increase the amount of orchids I have that are standing on their own, because there are so many extra orchids here. This orchid has 3 parts, and Avia is going to remove 2. Remember now, when cutting back your orchids or any plant, you should first sanitize your tools using hydrogen peroxide or bleach. When cutting back tall orchids, you should make sure there are at least 3 healthy roots on each piece. You know, Avia, you are my neighbor, so you know this is one of my favorite orchids. It blooms this big bunch with about 24 flowers on it.
Yes, beautiful.
Beautiful purple. But what has happened, it tends to give off a lot of kikis. But since it has all of these kikis, the mother plant has stopped blooming. It's a little shriveled, I think, too, because of the lack of water.
And because the kikis are
And the
feeding from
kikis are feeding from it. So we're going to remove, how many kikis we have here? One. We're going to leave this one, you said.
Yes, but we're going to take the mother and
Take the mother and those 4, then remove some of them. All right, let's go. I'm so excited. I'm going to have so many of this. Okay, so you would cut just above the one on the bottom.
yes.
And we're going to leave that one in place.
Okay.
So you're going to take the mother off totally. And hopefully she can be revived.
We're going to clean her up afterwards. Here you go.
That's
You have
another
a
one.
beautiful
So we
one,
had one
nice
in the
roots.
bed, left in the bed. That's number 2. This dark spot in the stem may suggest that there's some disease in the plant. So Avia cuts it back until it's not showing anymore. This orchid has some really nice roots, but they're entangled. And there's even one root that is going through a leaf. Avia carefully removes the roots before cutting. When the orchid is cut back in this way, it usually gives off 2 side shoots as the plant grows back. We'll keep that, and we're going to take that one off and probably just repot that and put it to the front.
This one is already off, you know.
It's already off.
Look, we didn't remove it. Here.
It removed itself. I think I'm gonna have to move some of this because it's entangled. It's getting in the way of the orchids. So I'm gonna have to take away some of this old man's beard. Plus it will probably, if I move some, it will allow in more sunlight. Because I think these need some more light. Wow. Oh, by the way, I'm often asked about these. I have them on the trees. And basically you get the root, you get the plant, the old man's beard that is, and you just throw it over a limb and it will just grow. These started off with just a little bit, but it will grow. And I can tell you a story, the birds love them. Easy nest material. The birds come here and they rob me, but it's okay because they can't take enough away. So it's for them as well. And I think it's easy to just for them to put in their nest and give that softer cushion feel. That's what I think. I don't know for sure because I don't follow them to where they're making the nest. But I do know that they love to come here every single day and take some of this away to pad their nest. So now these orchids have more space. We have cut off some of the limbs off the poi behind because it was intruding on the orchids. And so there's more space there. Okay, these are the orchids which we're able to cut from the original plants. Lots of roots, so they'll be easy to grow. And I've separated them according to color because I want to spread the colors throughout the 3 beds as evenly as possible. Okay. These are going to be potted and then placed in the beds at the front. These are some of the dendrobiums which I got from the bed we worked on in our last video. And Craig and I, you met Craig last time, and we're going to be working on repotting these plus the other orchids and transforming the beds at the front. We're repotting the orchids that were cut from the older orchids. And like I said, I got several of them. I'm so happy because these would have cost me so much money. So this is just like when we buy the bare root orchids and we set them. This middle bed is quite overgrown with zoysia grass. So Craig is Craig is weeding it out. And what we're going to do, whatever orchids can be taken out, we'll take it out. There are 2 hibiscus in the garden which generally produce quite a bit of flowers. So it adds color, especially when the orchids aren't in full bloom. I contemplated taking them out, but I decided that I just leave them in place and let them work along with the orchids. We have also taken out the bromeliads and we'll be putting back some in. But if you notice, they are really very badly damaged from lack of water and extreme heat. Craig has removed pretty much everything from the bed, leaving some of the big rocks which weren't showing anymore, and the 2 hibiscus. 2 hibiscus plants which we're gonna cut back, right Craig? We're gonna put in back all the sun vandas that were taken out, add a few more for more color, and also add some of the dendrobiums, so it will be a combination bed. This is a very faithful orchid, and I'm giving it a position of preeminence this time because it's always blooming. Very small bloom, but just blooms one bloom after the next. It's taking shape. It's so nice that we're able to keep this one with the flowers, or these 2 actually, so we have some immediate color. And now we're gonna add in some dendrobiums. Put them in the kind of shaded spots, so they're shaded until they fully adjust by the taller sun vandas. That's a nice one for out front here. Give me that one. Put that somewhere here. This particular bed is viewed from all sides, so we have to make sure all sides are made beautiful. We're placing a few epidendrums to all 3 beds as they will add a little playfulness. We're also placing some bromeliads around the edge of the beds because they will add color, a variation in shape, and they also help to keep the stones in place. Do you think it's starting to look good? Okay, just a few more things to add. Now we're working on the second of the 3 beds. It's a smaller space, so there are not as many plants. So now we have completed another bed. There's one tall orchid in the middle which is blooming, and we didn't cut it back because it didn't have sufficient roots. Now we're working on the third and final bed. Most of these orchids were left in place, but they needed to be staked. There, we came upon some red ants in this bed, so we're gonna spray them to get rid of it, and maybe leave some ants powder there after. We're using tall stakes to support the tall vandas in this bed. Because this big rock is in the middle and I don't want to remove it, I'm gonna put a clay jar on top and then fill that with different orchids, so we don't have this big gap. We don't have this big gap between the orchids. It's full. It's not so steady now, but I think once we fill it with the gravel and the orchids, it will anchor it to the top of the rock. This whole space will now be taken up rather than having all of that space in the garden or in the bed. I have to admit, I didn't do a lot of the work today. Craig did most of the work. The sun was so hot, and I don't know how he does it, but I was merely his assistant. But I'm adding some dendrobiums to the beds, the 3 beds at the front, because like I said, I want it to be a combination of vandas and dendrobiums, and we're adding a few pieces of epidendrums and some other orchids, just to make it much more interesting. So here we go. I'm adding, and I'm putting them more in the shade, so they're kind of shaded by the vandas, which are taller, but they will also adjust to the sun, especially now that hopefully this is the latter part of the year will be cooler. All right, so there we go. Here's the first bed completed. They just need to adjust now and then bloom. And here's the middle bed. And here's bed number 3. I can't wait for the blooms to come in. It was hard work, but I think it was well worth it. Before I forget, the spent dendrobium canes will not be thrown away. Instead, I place them on a tray, preferably on top of some gravel, keep them watered, and then I should get some shoots coming from some of them, like this one. So there you have it. My orchid beds are completed and I'm so excited. I can't wait for the blooms to come in. And when they do, I'll definitely show them to you. I hope you have enjoyed these last two videos and maybe even learned something from them. Hopefully, you have been motivated to work on your orchid beds if you need to do so. Remember now to like, share with your friends, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.